going on, Pistol Pete? I got FTD'd, bro. They shorted the stream, but here we are. Thankfully, all is well. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Aneurysm, Moon Ape, Easter Beast Terry. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with us. We need to have a bit of a discussion. I know a lot of people out there are worried about politics. They only care about the stock market. They only care about their specific precious metals or stocks. But the fact of the matter is that there is no financial market without politics. Geopolitics and macroeconomics are the #1 driver behind what happens in the stock market. No matter how much people want to put their head in the sand and pretend like politics does not affect them, you could not be more wrong. Or should I say, they could not be more wrong. Stop being a pansy. This is a channel for adults, not for children. If you can't handle your emotions enough to understand that politics matter, then you should probably not be investing in the stock market at all. That goes for crypto. That goes for many other investments out there, because they are all directly correlated to the #1 driving factors in these markets, and that is politics. Whether you like it or not, that's reality. The truth often hurts here, and I cannot stress this enough. You can want something, you can be from another country, but none of that is going to make a difference without you actually supporting the reality of what's happening in this country. And that is the fact that politics matter. So I'm going to play this video here. If you don't want to hear politics, you're at the wrong fucking channel. This is the Butcher of Wall Street, Boss Blunt's think tank. And the reason we're here, and the reason we've always been here from the very beginning, is because of situations that we're seeing in financial markets that came to fruition due to the over-leveraging of banks and hedge funds and family offices and even clearinghouses, prime brokerages, and broker-dealers. And all these opportunities were afforded to us thanks to the bad decisions made by many politicians out there. So I'm going to play this short video. And again, if you're not interested in politics or geopolitics or macroeconomics, this is the wrong channel for you. If you are, buckle up.
And former acting ICE director, and Brandon Judd, former National Border Patrol Council
Steve,
president.
Doug, welcome, ladies
now, Trump hit
and
Kamala
gentlemen.
today,
Flower.
guys, over the Biden-Harris record on the border. Watch.
4 years ago, Kamala Harris inherited the most secure border in U.S. history. And as border czar, she then set the all-time record for illegal immigration into our country every single year. And many of these people were stone-cold criminals and murderers. She willfully and deliberately erased her own nation's borders, a crime so wicked as to defy description.
Now, Tom, obviously you served under President Trump. You're watching this choreography play out today. What's your sense about the rank and file on the ground and what they feel, given what they've seen day after day?
The rank and file has no respect for her. Look, she broke the border. President Trump is right. He handed this administration the most secure border in my 34-year career, and they broke the border on purpose by abolishing everything we created under President Trump. And let's remember, I'm sick of her talking about the Senate bill. I don't want to talk about it because 6 months before the Senate bill was even talked about, we had H.R. 2, which passed the House, which is 100 times stronger than the Senate bill. But Chuck Schumer wouldn't put it on the floor for a vote. He wouldn't put it up for debate. The White House kept pushing it down. So they're the ones that shut down a legislation that could have fixed the border. But we got to remember, she broke the border. She didn't fix it, and she ought to apologize to the men and women of the Border Patrol, the chaos she created. She ought to apologize to the families of the 41 Border CBP officers who committed suicide under this administration. She ought to apologize to the Horse Patrol for comparing them to racists. She ought to apologize to ICE for comparing them to the KKK. She ought to apologize to men and women who are in that green uniform who are giving CPR to babies, talking to girls as young as 7 raped by the criminal cartels because she opened this border wide up.
This is why President Trump invoked Tom Homan's name so many times today, as
and this
I heard.
affects all of us.
Brandon, it's amazing how she's strolling alongside the border wall, and the Biden administration did everything in its power to ensure that not a foot of it, another foot of it, got built. Your reaction to that? She wanted that photo.
I'd like to be known that right here, you can't see it from this distance, but Kamala Harris is wearing a $62,000 necklace, strolling along the border here with Border Patrol, causing massive problems here in our country, of course, as the borders are, who for the last 3.5 years has allowed unchecked immigration into this country, and that has negatively affected the American people, American citizens, legal immigrants into America by removing their jobs and hurting our economy in a negative way. In the same fashion, that is affecting people around the world. Because the numbers that we're seeing now with GDP growth in this country are artificially being created by the use of government spending. Because government spending increases GDP even if our economy is down. And I think you people in Europe and Asia and other parts of, South America, et cetera, that are watching right now are well aware that this is impacting all of us, Americans and non-Americans around the world.
No. Yeah, she wanted that photo today.
Yep. And that's why we saw complete chaos in Yuma. All you have to do is look at the locations where she refused to enhance all the security measures that we needed. Yuma exploded. The Tucson sector exploded. Right there in Douglas, it exploded. Naco, Arizona, which is right next to Douglas, saw lows, and that exploded. So all of that area has completely and totally gotten out of control, and it's simply because it comes down to policy. If this election comes down to policy, which it should come down to, if you look at economic, domestic, if you look at foreign policy, and of course border security policy, if you look at all of those policies, you will grade Donald Trump much higher than Kamala Harris. And if it comes down to policy, if we actually vote based upon what is best for this country, it is clear that Donald Trump is the winner. Kamala Harris is going to the border because she knows it's a liability. She knows that she has to spin it. She knows that she has to try to rewrite history based upon what she does. She needs to be judged based upon what she has done. And what she did was release chaos, which completely and totally undermined every single Border Patrol agent. Every single time that we wanted to do our jobs, we couldn't do it. We just had to process people into the United States and say goodbye. We became essentially the welcome patrol, not the Border Patrol.
Yeah, changing diapers, getting baby formula. I mean, I was there. I saw exactly what was going on, and it looks like we're learning now that she's going to call.
Twitter's having issues, apparently.
To do their jobs. But I want to remind everyone watching tonight what she said about ICE.
We've got to critically re-examine ICE, probably think about starting from scratch.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK?
Back to your point, Tom, you raised it. The ICE, the same category as the KKK. And Tom, I think you have to address this point, that when they say the encounters are down at the border, we also have to remember that they're paroling in people at record numbers, almost, what, 1 million from Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. That meaning bringing them into the United States and placing them in communities. They did the same with Haitians, but that's their new approach, is it not? Resettling people legally.
Absolutely. Like the numbers aren't down that significant. Like you said, they put them in different buckets, and they can call them legal pathways, which are not. They're totally illegal. 30,000 a month from Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Venezuela, Cuba. Nicaragua, and Cuba. And the 30,000 every month, We can't return them because these 4 countries won't take them back. So they know this 30,000 is going they're not going anywhere unless President Trump's back in the White House. Then they're bringing thousands a day through the CBP One app. If you have the CBP One app and the CHNV, and plus what the Border Patrol's still catching, we're still at historic numbers. Historic numbers. Mexico stepped up enforcement a little bit. Why? Because they don't want President Trump to be president. You know who else don't want President Trump to be president? The criminal cartels in Mexico who are making billions of dollars every month. The government of Mexico don't want President Trump to be president because the gravy train's over. The terrorist organizations around the world who are using the southwest border as an entry point in this country, they don't want President Trump to be president either. So for everybody who's voting for Kamala Harris, you're in great company there.
Brandon, a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most helpful to her presidential ambitions, what will this trip do for her, do you believe?
It will be, it's a 0. The only people that...
It's a 0. And he could not be more correct on this. Now here, keep this in mind, you guys. This isn't just about illegal immigrants coming into this country, causing crime, right? Taking away stealing the American dream from people, right? Because illegal immigrants can come to the United States and get mortgages with no background check, no credit check, no job history required, and they get down payment assistance from the government. So essentially, they're propping up the housing market using these mortgages given to illegal aliens. Now, that means that Americans can't receive mortgages for these homes, and the prices of homes continues to rise artificially, because the government is giving them the money for all of this. This is increasing the value of homes here in the United States, which is negatively impacting all Americans that are trying to buy a home right now. At the same time, it is causing more inflation because the numbers state from ICE and the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Congressional Budgetary Office state that the United States government has given illegal immigrants between $300 billion, upwards of possibly anywhere between $300 billion upwards of $650 billion in assistance. Trump's border wall would have cost $6 billion. We could have taken all the homeless people off the streets here in the United States and given them homes and food for somewhere around 55 to 60 billion. So if we would have built a wall and helped all the homeless people here in the United States, it would have cost us $66 billion. That's about $580 billion less than we've currently spent bringing in these Democratic voters, because that's of course who they're going to vote for, because they're getting all of their funding from Biden and Harris. Even if it's illegal for them to vote, a lot of them are still going to try. And this is causing the United States to print money, and that's deflating the value of the US dollar. And if you live in another country, the United States, outside of the United States, any other country in the world, most countries trade in US dollars. And this is causing inflation, devaluing the US dollar, thereby devaluing your Japanese yen, devaluing your euro. Doesn't matter where you live. If your country trades with the United States, this is negatively impacting you. And this has a direct correlation on financial markets. And for now, because of all the printing that we're seeing, the markets continue upwards. The signs of a recession are there. They're clear. But the markets are not pricing in any recession. And they're not going to price in a recession until it's way too late. That's exactly what we've seen time and time again. Right now, Coinbase is restricting people. Some people have been restricted many, many times for transferring their cryptocurrencies into or out of Coinbase. Let me make this a little bit different for you guys so you guys can actually see this. Let me expand my screen here a little bit. Why are we seeing this right now? Check this out. There are more issues with Coinbase at the moment. Coinbase does not allow you to take custody of your cryptocurrencies. They're forcing people to sell in order to leave the platform. And trust me, this isn't just coming from me. Let's see how many dozens and dozens of people are saying this same thing over and over again. So you can see here one with 559,000 views, and a ton of people are actually agreeing and saying, they delayed my withdrawal recently for 3 or 4 days. They'll make every single ETF whole before their clients. I used to hold their stock. Now I wouldn't want my name associated with Coinbase. Sad, because their Lightning wallet is actually quite good. But 4 shutdowns. Coinbase has shut down 4 times in the last few months. Every time Bitcoin is pumped in the all-time high range this year. And then just last week, they shut down, of course, again, and withdrew halts. There are people telling people to run for the hills. I'm going to like that one, because he could not be more on point. They restricted withdrawals of someone I knew for 6 months. People are asking, why are you using Coinbase in the first place? Let's dive a little deeper. Can you please spread the word about this? With Coinbase has implemented no warning of this prior. Crypto sends restricted as a precautionary measure to protect you against potential loss. We've limited your ability to send crypto until October 28th. So I ended up selling and withdrawing the cash. It cost me in fees, and the price dropped marginally. Won't be going back to Coinbase anytime soon. Stay sovereign. Crypto.com as well. I spent all last week trying. Eventually got 4 small transactions to get processed, but 12 were rejected. I eventually gave up, liquidated to dollars, and did get out. But they had to give up. And here's the response. Can you tell me when the withdrawal will be available this morning? I suggest try it again at a later time, and you may also try to use an alternative external wallet address. What's the reason for the cancellation? You may refer to the statement that I sent you above. And of course, they had to literally sell, get cash in order to leave. It's not, again, this is not just one person. It's not 2 people. It's dozens and dozens of people saying this. That you need your own wallet with your own keys. Issues about Coinbase and Crypto.com. I've been restricted for over a year or more with the same issues. Every time I talk to management, they tell me to check back after a month. Every month I get nowhere. Avoid them at all costs. There have been 2 instances this month where I've been unable to complete tasks. First, I was unable to make purchases, and now I'm unable to send coins. And this is the kind of BS that they're getting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are releasing a new stock and crypto brokerage firm to combat this kind of bullshit. It's called XCHANGE. Go to litexchange.com and check it out. We also have an equity filing already in place where you can join our founders program and own equity in the company. Check it out at litexchange.com. The link is up in the chat in the description. Now, before I talk, you know what? Before I get too much any further into this, we need to talk about AMC and Gamestop as well, not just crypto. But this is a big, big problem that is continuously happening, and it's also happening with Robinhood. A lot of people are invested right now in Robinhood, and I still don't understand why. You know, between them pulling the buy button and shutting down and not allowing people to buy or sell their crypto and poor execution, it still baffles me as to why people continue to use some of these brokerages. This guy went through this with PayPal and Robinhood. It took forever to get my coin off their exchanges. And that's the kind of situations we're seeing now. And with the new implementation of the Bitcoin ETFs, you're going to see this more and more, ladies and gentlemen. More and more, because they're not actually holding the tokens and the coins with which you need to withdraw, because there's no what? Self-custody. Look at this guy's on it. Self-custody. Because they maintain custody of your tokens and your coins, and they're not actually holding them. We've seen this already with FTX and dozens of other cryptocurrency exchanges and firms that have shut down. Now let's talk about, go to check out litexchange.com, but let's talk about specifically first AMC and then GameStop, and they are both looking extremely bullish, extremely hot. The stock prices are doing okay, but they are not properly being priced in the current, based off of their current market situation. AMC right now has just filed this with the Securities Exchange Commission. I'll make this a little smaller so you guys can see it on the screen. This was a Form 8K filed with the Securities Exchange Commission EDGAR website, which you can find at sec.gov on their EDGAR archives. And they stated, again, this was filed today. I'll show you the date right here, September 30th, 2024. Here it is. Just make this a little bit more easily visible for you guys. expand it this way. There you go. Between August 5th and September 30th, AMC has made some huge moves. Here's what's going on. They entered into a privately negotiated agreements to extinguish unsecured debt in the amount of $152,923,002. This consisted of $15,602,000 principal amount of 5.75% subordinated notes due in 2025. Now, this is a huge news. This is also they also extinguished $9.57 million in principal amount of 5.875 and $127.749 million more in principal amount of 10% and 12% cash and payments in kind notes, toggle notes, subordinated due to in 2026. So they're wiping out the debt that's due in 2025, 2026, and they've done that with a measly 11,091,833 shares of the company's Class A common stock. And $103 million of cash, excluding accrued interest. And they may engage in similar transactions in the future, but they are under no obligation to do so. As you can see here, this was from dated September 30th, 2024, just today, signed by the Senior Vice President of AMC stock. Now, I'll explain to you guys very quickly what this means, and I'll give you some more details. By extinguishing $152.9 million in debt, AMC has lowered their overall liabilities and strengthened their balance sheet and reduced their interest expenses. They have saved anywhere, napkin math right here could show that they extinguished anywhere between $14 million up to $36 million worth of debt interest repayments. So that's saving them literally tens of millions of dollars in interest payments. There is a massive relief in their cash flow. Repurchasing or exchanging this debt for what we saw here is $103 million in cash and $11 million in notes. Sorry, not 11 million shares, excuse me. 11 million shares and $103.1 million in cash, especially at their new favorable terms, allows AMC to conserve cash for operational needs, growth initiatives, and reinvesting in the company. The ability to negotiate these deals with debt holders signals that there is exceptionally high financial flexibility with the company. This would obviously attract more investors, both institutional and retail investors, and the reduced debt improves their creditworthiness, allowing AMC to obtain better financing terms in the future. Although you may see that some of the firms out there, some of the ratings agencies may change their rating for these bond notes, as they always do when something is paid off early. That is not a bad thing. The credit rating changes initially when a company pays off debt early, and then it changes for the better immediately after. Although AMC issued 11.1 million shares of Class A common stock, the market may view this reduced debt as a positive offset to a potential share dilution. Basically, this strategic debt reduction demonstrates the commitment of AMC to improving their financial health. And this obviously enhances investor confidence and potentially drives the stock price higher. Woody Wooderson says, item 8.01, isn't that interesting? Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. That is great news. Hey, and thank you so much, my friend, for the super chat. That is very kind of you. So what this says here, before we move on to GameStop, is that the debt included subordinated notes that were due in 2025 and 2026, and the exchanges were exempt from the SEC registration under Section 3A9 of the Securities Act, meaning the transactions were made directly with existing security holders. AMC did not have to pay commissions for these exchanges and may pursue these deals again in the future, should they choose to do so, but they're not obligated to do so. So again, this just basically wiped out $153 million in unsecured debt in exchange for $100 million in cash and 11 million shares, saving them anywhere between $14 million and $36 million in interest due in the future. Not to mention gives them significantly more financial runway. Hey, Lisa Teague says, why two cameras pointed towards yourself? Ever since you started this, I leave as soon as I see it. It makes you look like an egomaniac. I understand you don't have to watch if you don't like to, Lisa. One of my other friends who's a YouTuber suggested it, and I decided to run with it. Why not? I'm not the one looking at myself, so if you don't want to look at me, that's okay. I don't blame you. GameStop. Let's take a look at it right here. GME stock is up 1.87% today, 90% in the last 6 months, 37% year to date, and 1,547% over the past 5 years. Obviously, the company here has, down 1% over the past month, which really is a negligible change. But here what we're looking at is the company has massive amounts of cash on hand. They recently sold a few more shares, which I wasn't too keen on, but I understand and I respect the decision. The company must do what it must do in order to restructure and maintain their financial position. GameStop has zero debt. They even recently paid off if I remember correctly, they even recently paid off the small loans that they had from the French government that were C-19 relief loans. Now, with that being said, they have $4.8 billion in cash on hand. I didn't misspeak. That's billion with a B. Their market cap is $8.7 billion. And they have more than 50% of that amount just sitting in cash in their fucking coffers right now. $4.8 billion in cash on hand for GameStop. Some people at this point are calling them Gameshire Hathaway in response to, Berkshire Hathaway and the recent possibility of GameStop making acquisitions such as Bed Bath & Beyond or Bye Bye Baby, or many others of the sort. They have the opportunity to buy up companies that have very good brand recognition, that have been around for decades, that are currently seeing the possibility of bankruptcy in order to turn them around for pennies on the dollar. And it is very advantageous for a company like GameStop to do so, because they are then diversifying their investments and turning into much more than a video game retailer. They've already begun doing that to some extent with the changes that they've made within the company, getting their hands on $4.8 billion, and have opened the way for mergers and acquisitions to occur in the very near future by paying off all debts that prevented them from doing so in the past. So they have an $8.7 billion market cap and almost $5 billion in cash on hand at the moment. And let's just say things are looking extremely bullish. This is a really basically Elliott wave theory that's going on here. This guy that posted this, Chaim Krieger on TradingView, posted triggers of the price action over the daily, weekly, and monthly. This blue line that you see at the bottom where the arrow is pointing to, that blue line shows that the daily has crossed over the weekly price action. The light blue line in the middle as well, followed by the green jagged line that goes sideways, shows that the price action right in the middle of my screen, the price action in green has exceeded the daily triggers as well. So the weekly triggers have exceeded the monthly. The price trigger has exceeded the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. And this is the kind of situation that leads to potential melt-ups. Hey, Francine, good to see you, my friend. Rely, Charles, Cat Zone, Everlong, Flower from December. Relax, my friends. It's all good. Everyone's got their opinions. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. I appreciate you all. I appreciate Lisa as well. Let's take a look at the flow. The flow is huge. Per my understanding, the flow is now over $2 million to the call side for GameStop from today. As you guys could see earlier today, GameStop was up 2.31%. Right now, it's up around 2% at the moment. In the GME January 17th, 2025 calls, some of the calls were up over 35%. And this trader is still in the enormous calls, having not exited at all. You can see net premiums have also stayed elevated, says Unusual Whales. The third highest today in 14 days. That camera, I'm going to have to replace this camera. And that's the expensive one, which is wild when you think about it. But I'm going to replace this thing. This is ridiculous. So we're seeing $2 million in net call premium, which is pretty good if you ask me. I think those are great numbers. And the fact that this is the third highest we've seen in 14 days is indicative of a potential breakout. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing a breakout with GameStop here. And the other good thing here, if you're an AMC fan, is that now that this is over, now that this has been completed between August 5th and September 30th, the extreme shorting of the stock that we've seen over the last 2 months could also be coming to an end, because they finished paying off and exchanging these shares for $153 million of debt paydown, thus meaning that AMC could potentially also be seeing a breakout here in the near future, simply because it is no longer being artificially manipulated to the downside so that market makers and short hedge funds can keep the company from increasing their bottom line, which of course it didn't work. They've done so anyways. They just spent $103 million in cash on hand and saved tens of millions of dollars in interest payments. So the net call premium on GameStop, as you can see here, this green line to the upside on the right side of my screen, on the right side of the chart, shows a net call premium increase of $1,267,637 with a volume of 137,000 traded. And this is for the September, sorry, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. This was obviously a photo taken on September 30th, and this is a 14-day chart here. And the net premiums do reset daily. And this was about 2 hours ago. So $1.26 million in net premiums for calls, greatly exceeding the red line, which is the net put premium, which has not gone up at all. Zero. As a matter of fact, it seems to actually be down today, which seems to be a consistent factor with the premiums being traded there. Here are the contracts with the GME $25 calls expiring January 17th of 2025. They're 109 days to expiry. You can see the average fill price is the yellow line, and it continues to increase over and over again. This, I mean, obviously here between September 16th and September 19th, there was a correction to the mean here, to the downside. But since then, it seemed to explode higher, basically from the 21st through today, consolidating in the middle and then exploding higher time and time again, which is really interesting for a call contract that expires in 109 days. Take a look at this. This one was posted on Friday by Unusual Whales. The last hour of trading on Friday, someone opened up new volume on GameStop. $25 calls expiring in that January. 71% to the ask side volume today. Over $4.7 million in premium spent on Friday alone. Obviously, this kind of call volume is extremely bullish. So it is looking very good for GameStop in the immediate term. And this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own due diligence. but these numbers are looking extremely healthy. Now, this is the kind of thing that usually can send implied volatility skyrocketing upwards, even though there's a significant amount of theta, which means time for those of you that aren't contract experts. There's a significant amount of theta left on this with 109 days. This is all very, very good news, in spite of the dark pool activity being extremely active. And when you know that the dark pools are extremely active, you know that there's a significant problem, because when the triggers, the price triggers, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, are constantly breaking up higher, in spite of the heavy dark pool volume, it shows you that there's some serious bullish action going on there. So again, people need to do their best to trade orders on lit markets and to avoid market manipulation. In order to do that, you guys should look into Lit Exchange immediately. Because aside from buying and holding, you can actually positively impact markets. When we launch Lit Exchange, the stock brokerage, we will be releasing the data on how many shares of heavily shorted equities are held by our customers. So users of Lit Exchange, in aggregate, we will be displaying how many millions of shares or whatever number of shares are available within our brokerage alone, being held on behalf of our customers alone. So again, we issued a press release last week. You guys can check it out at litexchange.com. In just 24 hours, our crowdfunding campaign under Regulation C, filed with the SEC Edgar website, raised over $200,000 in 24 hours. And you guys can go to the link over there if you want to join as well. There's a lot of other perks there that I'm not going to get into right now. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Get away from me. Everlong says, I like the two-camera view, as do many of us. Cheers, my friend. Everlong's fueling up the rocket. And Terry says there's nothing like a Diddy party. That's very, very true. Charles, I'll take questions if you guys have any questions. We can do that. Do you think there will be issues with the whole city, with the whole Diddy list, with the actors and musicians that AMC was trying to connect to, or lack of actors, meaning less movies? I don't think so. I think everybody that's associated with Diddy is already running for the hills. You know, people are quickly deleting everything on their Twitter and stuff, and it's really clear when you got guys like Usher deleting all of their tweets that there's something going on there, right? We already know this. There's a lot of evidence against them, but I'm not really concerned about it, because the amount of money that has been raised this quarter alone in actual movies for the third quarter has exceeded 2019. And that's actually huge news overall. So definitely a good sign for theaters, a good sign for gaming. And I think that it's a form of escapism in gaming and in movie theaters that a lot of people need right now. Anytime that there is recessionary issues, things like movie theaters and video games do extremely well. So I want to say thanks again to everybody. Cheers, Venom. I appreciate you, my friends. Thanks for joining us. I wish you peace and wealth. There's a reason I wear this hat. There's a reason I've been wearing it for over 3 years, because I don't care how long it takes. As long as Citadel isn't folding, I'm holding. I ain't selling till they fire Janet Yellen. And as long as there's a lifeline for 0.72, I'm not fucking leaving. How's that? Cheers, my friends. We're going to be filthy fucking rich.